What you looking at?
What's up, everybody out there? It's myself and two of my closest partners in fantasy football. I'm Trevin. You see the banner down there, IW Taylor. With me, as always, Pete Double S Dukes, the founder, godfather, creator of the Double S Project.
Killing me, dude.
Also with us, our esteemed cohort on the Double S Project, Deon Dyer. He's with us.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey, He's here to discuss the finer points of fantasy football. We're all in the Double S Project League together. As I've mentioned in the past, myself and Pete, we've been going at it in fantasy football in a couple of leagues for 15-something odd years. I've just got playing against Deon in the last year or so, and basically, this is our show. We are going to discuss the state of fantasy football, and we got a couple other things that we're going to get into a little bit later on tonight, not just in the general sense of playing fantasy football, but running fantasy football, running a league, being a commissioner of a league, and we're going to touch on that and how that relates to our future episodes. But in the meantime, we'll get back to that. In the meantime, how'd it go for y'all this week?
I got in our league, I got my money league in this league, I got blasted. So
I respectfully decline to answer.
I could answer.
It was horrible, actually. I will answer. It was horrible.
How many points? How many points did you get
this week, D?
This week, because last week we're not going to discuss last week.
That's why I'm trying to reach for my phone right now, so I can actually have. Normally, I would have my phone right by my side, and because I'll let you know. It was. I think I reached 80 points.
That's better than last week.
That's definitely better than last week.
But no, where I'm at, I'm getting used to it. And I would like to ask you about maybe adding, having a defensive player and maybe another running back to go. So it's like 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. You get the tight end, the flex, a defense, and a defensive player. I don't know.
Independent defensive player league. We discussed that earlier on. Not in terms of adding it currently. That can't happen. But some people play independent defensive player leagues. It was kicked around in the other league that I'm in that we might try that. But and I was all for it. I've never done it before, but I would try it.
There you
And but the commissioner, for whatever reasons, decided not to go in that direction. Yeah, I mean, it was his league. They invited me in. I'm just going whatever they said too. So,
right.
But to touch on that, I'm still undefeated in that league. That's what I call the Cookie League, the Girl Scout Parents Group. And I'm telling you, man, it's a Girl Scouts league. It's now I'm undefeated there. I stole a win. I probably shouldn't have won with Brandon Marshall being in the condition that he's in, and I had some other guys not turn up. But the other guy, he had a worse performance. In the Double S League, Deon, you probably outscored me, to be honest. I've got a lot of nothing out of there going on this week.
Right.
It didn't look good going into the game, and as the game got on, it just got worse.
Yeah. Well,
who didn't?
Yeah.
I ran into a combination of Nick Foles and who else got me in that league? I mean, I ran into all types of stuff. Julio Jones. I was the one that went against Julio Jones in 2 leagues. Yes, me. I mean, I also went against Pierre Garçon. Yeah. So yeah, I got the best of everybody this week.
Yeah, basically out there in the fantasy world, if your team was going up against a Falcon or multiple Falcons, you got toasted because the Buccaneers completely enabled the Falcons.
You probably got toasted.
Yeah, you likely
got toasted. Yep.
Yeah.
My thing that's hurting me, the thing that's hurting me in our league is the fact that Adrian Peterson's gone. I had a healthy team. He's gone.
Nice segue.
Yeah.
At this point in time, if anyone's out there and listening, I am going to go ahead and suggest that if you haven't already, I'm going to release him. I'm going to drop him because I don't believe that he'll play this year.
Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that because that was something we were talking about. And I talked about it on last week's show. I actually went off the general format. I was running solo, so I took the opportunity to address the Adrian Peterson situation from both a player and commissioner standpoint. But he's basically posing the question, what would you do? And at the time, it hadn't been announced that he was put on the exempt list. When I started thinking about how that would go, I'd actually read some commentary on an article and some forums. And I think as obviously when the exemption list news broke out, then the cold reality, because I got AP all done. I got all done and on the other team. He was my first round pick. So I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat as
all
you,
done.
Deon.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, all done.
all done. All done.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
done. Okay.
Yeah, so I got him. I'm in the same boat as you. And I mean, the cold reality of it was that I got to cut him and get another player in there. So at this point, if you go on the websites and everything, it's pretty obvious. You can see he's owned in like 2% of all leagues at this point. You still got some folks holding out a hope against hope, and but for the most part, I guess it's.
Well, let me ask this question.
If I just may,
from a keeper.
Go ahead,
Deon. Go. How you go?
No. All I wanted to say was just that I don't think anyone could have predicted that his whole situation would have escalated and blown up to the point of where we are with it right now. I just never saw that. I don't think anyone saw that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
If anybody would have saw that, they wouldn't have drafted him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have drafted him if you knew that was coming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it was fast. Like this whole thing just blew up fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I can't imagine how he's actually feeling personally. Like, oh my God,
Nobody owns me in fantasy.
Man.
Right.
But you know what I mentioned last week too? It's the thing with him is different than with Ray Rice, because not only did Ray Rice get in trouble, Ray Rice wasn't going to be a high draft pick. If Ray Rice had never got in trouble,
right? You should have been drafted Ray Rice as high. Yeah.
I mean, let's just pretend Ray Rice never got in trouble. Nobody would have been taking him in the first 3, 4, 5 rounds. I mean, he'd have gone late because he was averaging 2.5 cents a carry. So,
yeah.
Fantasy football never came up. But Adrian Peterson, number 1, number 2, number 3 player, consensus. Whole different ballgames.
Right.
People built teams around Adrian Peterson. I did. I don't know how that team is still undefeated, but they are. But and basically a lot of people woke up last Wednesday and their team was basically minus what they thought was going to be about 35% of their output.
Right.
That led a bunch of us to go scrambling for the Bobby Rainey's of the world.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, since we're doing what we gotta do, especially you, Deon, what are you moving on right now? Because I know you're trying to fill some of these voids and get on the winning side of things against me this week. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's not personal. I just prefer to beat you.
Who was that directed to, Prev? Because you were kind of in and out.
I'm sorry. That was directed to you, Deon.
Me or
that was you, because I've already lost the beat.
Of course. Because I'm 0-3. It would be.
Well, I mean, I want to make you 0-4. Again, it's not personal, but I mean.
You know something. This is. I'm loving this. I gotta tell you, I really love this. I'm glad that we have the technology for all of this nowadays. For fantasy football, because they've been having this since we were kids. We all know that, But I'm gonna tell you something, Prev. I've got something cooking, and I've got it brewing. I'm seasoning up the pot. I'm stirring it.
All right.
Okay, I got it on the light simmer. It's on the simmer. All right. but I got a
Oh,
plan. Listen,
Okay.
I got a plan. I got into the coach's room. I watched some film. I got my staff
there we
together.
go. There we go.
We talked. Okay. We made some decisions. We addressed the press, and we're coming out. And that's all we're gonna do is win this weekend.
Now, I
Okay.
mean, I'm not sitting here just talking junk. I'm just asking what sort of moves. I mean, this is what we do on the show. We talk about what sort of moves are we making as it relates out to everybody, because, it's all automated. I can't stop.
Right.
You're gonna get
Well,
who you're gonna
okay.
get.
Well. Okay. For instance, I mean, I have my information right here. What I did, what I did here on waivers. I went and picked up a tight end because I got Jay Thomas from the Broncos. He's got a bye.
Mhm.
All right. So I went and picked up Niles Paul from Washington. I think he could possibly help me out a little bit with with Cousins, getting out there and doing some things. I picked up Donald Brown. I like that young guy, that young man. He's got a workload. Everyone's getting hurt. He's got the
Out of
load,
San Diego.
out there in
It's
San
a show
Diego.
for a little while.
Yeah, and I went and I added
These
a
are
new
what you put in
addition. Let
for,
me go
right?
back to. I'm sorry.
This is what you put in for because they haven't been approved yet, right?
It'll be approved tomorrow.
Oh, okay, Thursday, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Or early Thursday morning.
Yeah, and so one of them has to be approved because I think one of the guys play tomorrow night. So I have Sanu. I like him. Okay, and I added DeAndre Hopkins. By the way, I think DeAndre Hopkins is gonna have some upside this week. I mean, the guy's pretty much consistent in fantasy world. You're talking about double-digit numbers for the first 3 weeks, at least. Anyway, even last year he was pretty good.
All right, what about you,
Okay.
Pete? What you doing? You scoping out anybody?
I might trade Tom Brady. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
You might trade Tom Brady.
Are you already involved in this negotiation?
You're already trying
Pete,
to get rid of Tom.
Listen, Pete, you can go ahead and say what you got to say now. I just wanted to put that bait out there in the water that I'm shopping Brady. Okay, shopping him.
Oh, I went in and out. I couldn't the connections. Oh, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all right. All right. I can tell you, I don't know if I'll get.
It's all good.
I went after Cousins. I don't know if I'll get him though. I think I prioritized the guy that my team has a little transmission problem. We're on the highway, and sometimes my foot gets a little tired when I'm accelerating. Who got dropped by somebody last week, and so I looked at since the Texans decided to put Eli Manning back in the Hall of Fame discussion with one game, and so forth and so on. I guess I needed to try and address the back end of my receiving core, so I put in for Cruz, thinking thinking they do play a bunch of NFC East teams all year long.
I was hoping no one would pay attention to that salsa dancing cat.
Well, you shouldn't have dropped them.
Oh, that's the life we live in this world, this fantasy world, guys.
As Pete said earlier, Pete and me were on the phone yesterday, and we were just talking about. We used to talk about the skill and rolling the dice, taking risks. And he said, "Man, we're just down to guessing now."
Pretty much.
Yeah. You know what? That's fair. That's very fair to say, honestly. It really is. What else can you do?
The seasons get crazier and crazier, and there's only.
Well, look at Brady. Look at what's going on in New England. I mean, really, who would have thought that?
Well, you saw some flashes of it last year, and I mean, let's face it. You keep doing addition by subtraction, you're going to eventually start approaching zero.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I mean, I might not be the best.
Well, how do you explain Colin Kaepernick then, or is that always what it was? We knew
A
that
little bit
car.
of
We
both.
knew
A little
that
bit of
car
both.
wasn't a. You
A little bit
understand?
of
We knew
both.
that wasn't a Ferrari. You know, we knew what it was. It wasn't a
A
Bentley.
little bit of
It was
both. I
a
think
Ferrari.
Pete and I had this discussion off and on all summer long, and we agreed that we thought if there was going to be a team to take a step back in the NFC West, it was going to be San Francisco. The Cardinals Pete was high on the Cardinals. I was like, I don't like Carson Palmer. I didn't think the Rams were going to do anything at all, but between the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the 49ers, somebody had to take a step back. We thought it was going to be the 49ers.
Mm.
So I think it's not all Kaepernick, but,
No,
he's not
no.
necessarily being put in the best position to do what he does best, but when he's getting his opportunities, it's not necessarily going all that well either. But I
So
mean,
let me
again, if
ask
you
you.
got him out there as your backup quarterback, you can still do worse.
Okay, so I mean, I am doing worse. You're right. Um, Unfortunately. However, let me go here with this then. Defenses. All right. Actually, before I go there,
Interesting.
so, huh? Well, before I go to the defenses,
I was about to
so
say that
what
could
you're
take an interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
well before I go there, so what you're saying is, in terms of fantasy, Kaepernick is just a backup. He's not really gonna.
In my opinion, yeah.
In
He's
my
I would
not gonna
target him
opinion,
from
bring
the
in
start as a backup.
yeah.
because 30 plus is what I consider. You got to bring in 30 plus, maybe 34 plus
I wouldn't have
to be
expected that from
considered
him every week. I
starter.
wouldn't. I would not have expected that from him on a week-to-week basis. Not playing in the
Okay.
West either.
Now, what do you? How do you feel about Stanton then, guys out there? I mean, because the Cardinals they have weapons. They
They
have
do.
weapons.
They do.
So can he be a fantasy? Like, can he be a 30 plus guy?
I don't know about a 30-plus guy. I'm still thinking I would like that. I'd rather have Stanton as my backup. There's some other guys I got. I think it depends on the makeup of your team first and foremost. Because if you're like me, and I decided to go second tier on purpose at quarterback, waiting till I think round 6 or whatever it was to go after Phillip Rivers, and he's
Mm-hmm.
been 2 out of 3 games he's been pretty good for me. So with that being said, it would have been a Kaepernick or a Palmer, or if Stanton could somehow continue to perform as he is, you know, Stanton, I'm thinking back up with upside, but with all the weapons they got and the Cardinals playing at the level they are, maybe you start thinking I can insert that guy in on a week-to-week basis. The problem is, what happens if Palmer comes back?
Oh, yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah.
Stanton.
Right.
But and look, I'm going to go ahead and go back and touch on what we're talking about. We're talking about the situation, the whole thing with All Done, and I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned last week on the show, it from a commissioner's standpoint, the question of the morality in Adrian Peterson came up, where somebody in the media theorized that Peterson should be stricken from all rosters throughout the whole universe of fantasy football. And stay with me, Dan. Don't. I'm just saying.
All
All right.
right,
Somebody brought
right.
that up. Now,
Okay.
personally,
Yeah.
as I said last week, as a commissioner, that was not something I would have taken out to
Right.
my league. If I'm running the
Mhm.
league, all y'all out there, I didn't say a word about it. No tweets, no texts, nothing. If you had
Right.
AD and you wanted to keep him, personally, I don't care. Um, and this is before they found out that he was pretty much going to be gone for the year. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't have asked anybody. Me personally, I wouldn't have asked anybody to do that. Now, if everybody out in the league decided to put their heads together and say, we think this ought to happen, I would have had no problem with it. We'll do it. Now,
Interesting.
being an owner of
Very.
Peterson, right? Well, being an owner of Peterson, I was thinking, now, what if the commissioner of the other league I was in had come to me and say, we need you to get rid of him? And then this is not knowing that he wasn't going to be there. I might have had a
Mhm.
problem, thinking that he might come back. I might have had a problem with that. And
Mm-hmm.
then you
Right.
got a potential conflict there between the commissioner and league members. So what we here on the show are going to start doing starting next week is dedicate a little time to address things from the commissioner's standpoint. Issues that come up when you're running a league, just some ideas, some discuss stuff coming from myself and Pete's perspective, because we've been commissioners since we've been doing this from the start. 17, we're talking about maybe almost 30 combined years of commissioning experience between the two of us. And Pete brought up a point with me the other day where he said, if you really think about it, we've got a lot of folks that started up leagues inside the last 5 years, and they haven't been doing it for maybe all that long. And I have the most, I won't say fascinating fantasy discussions with other commissioners, but they're pretty engrossed when you start tossing ideas and comparing stories around. So we want to kind of introduce that to the Double S Project Fantasy Football Show. Kind of, do something a little bit different from anything else that might be discussed out there. But everything else is from the player perspective, how to get your day-to-day lineup straight and all that stuff. And we want to do something a little bit different and try to enhance, what we're doing. Hey, look, I'm going to go ahead and close this off tonight. Everybody out there, thanks for watching. Like us on YouTube. Check us out on our Facebook group page, Double S Project. I promised last week we'd get better at Twitter. That hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to promise it again. Pete, Deon, I want to thank y'all for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and here we go on with the big show.